Hey, Ed Johnson here with a little tutorial on how to make a really large poster. We're doing it for Black History Month, and I said I'd send on this tutorial to everybody in case you want to try to make one too. It's basically free. It's the cost of some scotch tape, some painter's tape, and copier paper. Our copier tells us the cost of it in black and white for 60 pages was about 50 cents, so I think the price is pretty reasonable, especially if your employer or your school is paying for it. So let me talk a little bit about the setup here, okay? So first off, I went and found an image that I liked. And we were doing Black History Month, and I did the Tuskegee, or our group, excuse me, did the Tuskegee Airmen. And I'm looking for pictures where we can see faces. I want to see some detail in the faces. So the only one that really seemed good on a quick search, well, this one's not bad. But this one here really stood out to us as the best. So I took this one. And if I was to do it again, I would darken the photo. What we did do is add some text to the hood so we knew what it was, so we had a title on it. But when I look at it as a fully assembled poster, I think it could be darker. So we can do that on this version. So I'll save that photo, download it, and then I like to use this, I'm going to reopen it now, this thing called Pixlr, pixlr.com. Totally free, really easy to use, and we're going to open an image, and that image I just saved of the Tuskegee Airmen. All right, so I added some text here. I thought this would be the version without, but you add text by going to this text box here off to the left. They have lots of great ways to add text if you're really interested in something different, but you can just add the text and then change the font size here, right? So I've already done that, so I don't need to do that again. Um, so there's Tuskegee Airmen. Then I would go to settings here, and I chose to do a little bit of darkening of this. So brightness, and maybe darken it a little bit. Or you can increase the contrast. I think that looks better. I think that'd be a better final result than what we came up with. And so you save that. That's a pretty quick process. It will download it, and then you go to this next website, okay? Let me reopen it from scratch. And it is called Rasterbaiter.net. This has been around at least 20 years, I think. I remember it from my old school, and I've been, from 15 years ago, let's say. So create your poster. I think there are some inappropriate ones that are in here. These are just examples of what people do. What you'll notice, some look very clean and some have lines in between. That could be an effect you want. You see the lines here, those white lines? That would be the easier way to do it. Or if there are no lines, then the individual took some time to trim their paper. I choose to trim the paper, but you may want to leave these lines of paper between for that effect. Okay, so you can do any size you want. So totally free website. Choose your file. Downloads. So I'm going to open that and upload it. They have examples if you wanted to just experiment. And then choose your paper type. Make sure you choose your paper type in portrait. I think it's better in portrait. I like to have the margins, and I'm going to do 12 wide. That's what I did. I calculated ahead of time to see that I wanted a poster that was about this size. That's the space, the wall space that I had. And so it looks good. You can even enlarge the preview, I guess, to get an idea of what it looks like. Okay. And it looks like this is the already raster-baited thing, because really over here is where you choose your effect. The black and white rasterbation. I do black and white. I like their defaulted halftone and circles, and I do change this to 5. I think that improves the effect. Okay, and then you say complete. It's that simple. It takes a few seconds to download. It's working, tells you in real time, and then it should produce it here. And then let's talk about the assembly for a second, okay? So double click on it and open it. You'll see you have what the poster looks like. I think this has actually been a rasterbation of a rasterbation. Let's go to this one over here, because I think this one is a better indication. Yeah, this one looks a little bit better. So you can't see the detail here, but look over here. You can see that it starts to look like when you get further away from it. Now, in terms of the assembly, you need some Scotch tape, and I think painter's tape. Painter's tape's not mandatory, but it worked really well for me. But before you get to that, you need a paper cutter, you know, one of those choppers. And I take off the right side of each piece and the bottom of each piece, right up to the edge of the dots, but only the bottom and the right side. I do not take off the left side and the top. You need that space to tape onto, okay? It's much better to have some paper here, but be consistent in that you take off just the right side, because that's the easier way to do it on the chopper, right? Because it just cuts right. You have the other part of the paper that fits on the chopper, and just the edges cut off, all right? And do that for all 60 pages. Make sure that you do not mix up the order. The order is critical. The order goes across the rows, right? 1 through 12, 13 through etc. So go ahead and make sure you chop off the edges, but do not lose the order. And then what I do is I use little bits of tape, maybe 1-inch pieces of tape, and I put 3 or 4 attaching the first page to the second page. And I line up the dots exactly as best I can, and 1-inch pieces of tape, one at the top, one, you know, a third of the way down, 2/3 down, and then at the bottom. And I do the rows. I do all the way across the first row, then I'll do the second row, and then I'll flip it over and use painter's tape to really attach them together. And the painter's tape really makes it work better. That's the first time I've done it with the painter's tape, and I really like that process. And then you should be done. You know, you can put it together. I think it takes about an hour, so count on about a minute per piece of paper, total time. You know, the taping actually goes faster than that, but you have the whole process time. But I hope that gives you a general idea of what happened. We have a finished product, I think was done over at the Ciangoli, the CCI on Twitter, showed, no, where's the Ciangoli Center? They posted, well, they posted a picture of me assembling mine, and I think we'll find it right here. Let's see. Yep, there's the picture of me taping it together, and you can see how I'm lining it up. These are not attached down here in the bottom right, but I've attached the top ones, and I have painter taped the top ones in that process. Okay, so feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I think it's a fun little project and economical too. Thanks.